All right, we got 11, 12, 13, and 14. Woo! Good? All right, 11, what are we doing? Just multiplying, right? Everybody on the block gets paper. This is clamshell. Okay, so I'm going to take this times this, and that gives me 6x cubed, right? Because an x and x squared gives us cubed. This is going to give me plus 2x squared, and this is going to give me minus 10x. Does that make sense? Now here comes the funky part. Negative 4 times this. So that's going to give me an x squared, right? So I put that in the x squared column. So it's going to be negative 12x squared. And then I'm going to get negative 4x. And then I'm going to get positive 20. Because 2 and negatives make a positive, right? And see how I organized them in order? So now I just add them up. 6x cubed, negative 10x squared, negative 14x plus 20. And this is a cubic polynomial. Okay? Because you got to name it. Alright? I want you to make sure you name that. Yeah, it tells you to name it. So it's a cubic polynomial. Number 12. I got to break this apart. That's that factor by grouping one. Right? So we're going to split these up. We're going to go 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus. Always put a plus between them. Okay? And then negative 2x plus 3. Okay? And we do not like that negative out in front. So we're going to pull out a negative if we can. Here, it's a negative 1. So that pulls out, that's a 2x plus or minus 3, right? So that means what we want to get this to be is 2x minus 3.
If you pulled out a negative 1, wouldn't it just be x?
No, remember, dividing. So negative 1 times 2 is negative 2.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right? And then here, I'm going to pull out an x squared. What that does is it leaves me with 2x minus 3. So now I have the 2x3 in both of them. That's what I want. So I'm going to rewrite that. X squared times 2x minus 3 plus, because that plus comes down, 2x minus 3 times negative 1. Then what I'm going to do is take out that 2x minus 3. And what's left is x squared minus 1. Right? Or actually x squared plus negative 1. So we get 2x minus 3 times x squared minus 1. Then I have to remember my squares. Is this a square? Is this a square?
The x squared is.
Yeah, it's a square of x's, right? And this is a square of 1's, right? It's a difference of squares, right? So we take that down and go, okay, x minus 1, and then what's the conjugate? X plus 1. So those are all your possibilities. And then in your column here, you would choose all the ones that are in there. And if none are there, then you would say E and put your answer. And I don't see any. Oh, 2x minus 3 is B. So it's B. 2x minus 3 is your answer for that one. But sometimes they're going to have B, C, and D, like x minus 1, x plus 1. Does that make sense? Alright, next. We got to do our exponents, right? What's our exponents rules? We add when we multiply, we subtract when we divide. Okay? So let's do the multiplication first. Add them all up. Well, I like to do numbers first too, actually. So I like to just put it all under 1, and then go, okay. 2 times 2 is 4, right?
Yeah.
And there's a and the 6, right? So it's really 4 times 6 is 24. Does 8 go into 24? 3 times, right? So it leaves me with the 3 on top. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I start doing my A's. How many A's? I got 3, 5, and none. So that's 8. How many B's? I have 1 and 1. So that's 2. Does that make sense? And then I do the bottom. How many A's? I have 3, 9, and 3. So that's 15. How many B's? 4, 2, and 4. So that's 10. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to go, okay, well, this is bigger. This one's bigger, right? So I'm going to take 8 from 15 and get 7. And this one's bigger, so I'm going to take 2 from 10 and get 8. And that's my answer. Whichever one's bigger, that's where it stays. So if that top one was bigger, it would stay up top. Does that make sense? Okay? And then this guy, your last one. This looks harder than it is, but remember, this is just factoring. So we got to remember how to factor. 3x squared plus 11x minus 4. That means we have 3x and 3x, right? With our star as a 3. So we got to take out a 3 and a 1 later, okay? And then we have this sign comes down. This sign tells me they're the same or different. What does minus tell you? Same or different? Different. So this is minus. All right, what's my product? My product is the first times the last, which is 12. So two things that multiply to be 12. I usually put the 12 underneath. 12. Two things that multiply to be 12. But the sum, sorry about that. The sum is 11. So two things that add, but we're not adding in this case. We're subtracting, because of this guy, subtracting to be 11. So it multiplies to be 11, or it multiplies to be 12, but subtracts to be 11. 12 times 1, right? 12 minus 1. So you got 12 and 1. But we have an extra 3 in there. We need to take out that 3. And 1. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 3x minus 1. And so we're left with this. So what happens here is we have x plus 4 times 3x minus 1 all over x plus 4. Now, is one of those the same? The x plus 4 and the x plus 4, right? They cancel, and what are you left with? 3x minus 1. And that's your answer. Yeah. Did I mess up?
On number 13,
13.
A on the bottom does not add up to 15, it's 14.
Should be 15.
No, because it says 2, not 3.
Oh, is one of these a 2?
Yeah, the A is a 2 at the end.
This one's a 2?
Yeah.
Oh,
Not bad then.
that would change things.
All the windows make it a 14 instead of a 15.
So this is a 2, so this would be a 14. So instead of 14,
It'd be 6.
it'd be 6. So 14 minus 8 is 6. So good, let's fix that.
That's my bad then.
That's okay.
I read it wrong.
We got it. We did it right, we just wrote the wrong numbers. So know that if that happens, you get a minus 1. It's not a big deal. 1 out of 100 ain't that bad. Right? You did everything else right. That's how I look at it.
Hey, Dan done everything wrong. You lost me on number 14.
Number 14. So we factored this. Okay? So this comes down. Remember, the star variable comes down. Okay? The next step, it's a 5-step method. Remember, GCF. Okay? It's first step. Second step is parentheses star variable. Okay? So you're bringing down your 3 and your 3x in both of them. third step is signs. So this sign comes down, and this sign tells me that they're the same or they're different. If it's a plus, both signs will be the same. If it's a minus, these two signs are different. It's a minus, so they're different. Okay? 4, product and sum. Okay? So your product is your first number times your last number. So 3 times 4 is 12, right? And your sum is your middle number, which is 11. Okay? So you're doing, in the sum, you do whatever this sign is, that second sign. You always do to find the sum. So in this sum, we're subtracting. So we need two numbers that multiply to be 12, but subtract to be 11. So the only two numbers would be 12 and 1. So we plug those in. But because we put an extra 3 in, 3 times 3 is not 3, right? 3 times 3 is 9. So we have to pull it out later. So that's what makes this a little easier. Okay? It's kind of weird, but it makes it for easy math. So now we're going to pull out a 3. I can pull a 3 out of here, but not out of here. But then I can pull out a 1 out of that one. So 3 and 1. Okay? And 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 1 goes into 3. And so that's that last step, the star cleanup. Whatever you put in, you got to take out. If you put in a 12, you got to take out either 12 and 1, 3 and 4, 2 and 6. Does that make sense? Okay? And so that's how we get these two pieces. Now, we plug it back in up here. Okay, so what we're saying is that x plus 4 times 3x minus 1 is divided by x plus 4. And what happens is those two x plus 4s cancel, right? And it leaves us with just 3x minus 1. And that's the rational polynomials. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No better?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Did that end on me? No, still going.